Ever since Ephraim Jennings was a little boy, he's been completely infatuated with a little girl named Ruby. A girl that he thought was absolutely beautiful in every single way and could do no wrong. That is until Ruby gets a little older, into her teens and young adulthood, when things start to go a little awry. After coming back to Liberty, Texas from living in New York City for several years, things start to change. She starts experiencing very strange phenomenon that happens every single night and is unable to explain it to anyone because of things that happened in her past. Ruby's dark past tends to haunt her much later in her life and is most likely the cause of some very strange happenings in Liberty, Texas. The novel Ruby by Cynthia Bond not only follows the story of Ruby herself, but the story of Ephraim Jennings and several other characters that live in the small town of Liberty, Texas. Now, personally, I wasn't a really big fan of this novel. It was really hard to read at times because there was a very quick change between perspectives, and it was all within the same chapter. There would probably be between 4 to 6 different perspective changes per chapter, which is an incredible amount and is very hard to try and do because there are so many different characters that are at play in this story that all try to contribute to the main story, but everything just kind of gets muddled to me. There are perspectives from Ephraim, from Ruby, from Ephraim's older sister Celia, and several other small, insignificant characters that I don't feel need to be expressed other than maybe about their backstory. There also is a lot of backstory involved in this story as you read through the rest of the characters, and I think a lot of it is unnecessary. The way that Cynthia Bond, I think, tried to do this was to try to give life to every single person in the story because, I don't know, maybe she thought that there were a lot of novels that weren't contributing stories to every single character. And while that may seem pretty cool at the time, in theory, in practice it really doesn't seem to work, especially for this novel. Everything was way too muddled for me, and everything seemed to be getting confused with each other. However, a lot of the backstories were actually very interesting when you were able to understand whose backstory it was. I thought especially Celia and Ephraim's backstory was very captivating. Ruby's was really iffy with me because I wasn't exactly sure what was wrong with her. There was a lot of things about voodoo and black magic possibly, and demons, and all these weird things that were starting to happen. I don't think it was very well explained what was happening to her as it was happening. However, towards the end of the novel, I think that she started to piece things together. It was just very small pieces throughout the story, but I would have liked it more if there would have been a lot more at one time, where you got a lot of information at one time as opposed to dragging it on throughout the entire novel. I honestly hate it when authors drag on and on about this one character and something about them and they don't cut to the chase. I don't mind if they drag it on until about maybe halfway through the story of when something kind of happens to where a lot is revealed about a character, but to drag it on through almost an entire novel is absolutely unnecessary to me and only makes the story that much more dull. Despite all the negativity that I've so far given this book, the one thing I really did enjoy the most out of Ruby was Cynthia Bond's ability to incorporate a new dialect into the story. Cynthia Bond is a native of East Texas, and so with that, as an African American woman as well, comes a lot of different dialectical differences between the standard English and the way that people in East Texas typically speak. Now, this was prominent throughout the novel because even as you were reading the narration of the story, you could literally hear the Texas drawl that comes from this kind of an area, which was absolutely fascinating to me because I'm currently taking a linguistics class here in college, and so we've been learning about all of these different things about dialects recently and how they're very different from from standard English. And it was just so fascinating to be able to read something from a different kind of dialect. The characters all had their own way of speaking and all had about the same dialect, but it was all Texas Southern kind of dialect, which was really interesting to read. You don't typically find, even in adult novels, that kind of a dialect. Everyone, no matter what race they are, all have a very standard English dialect, which is very whitewashing, I would say. And so I'm very happy to see that somebody decided to create a story around a dialect that was so vastly different and portray that in a very effective way. There was even a character who was Jamaican, and so as you read her dialogue, you could see not only the difference in how she would say words, but you could actually hear it in your head as you're reading this character, the kind of accent she would have because she was Jamaican, which was absolutely awesome to me. I thought that was so cool that Cynthia was able to create that in her story and make me actually hear these different characters in their dialects and in their language. It was so cool. And so despite all the negativity, that is one thing I think you can take away from this novel, is you can actually see the difference in the tone and the inflection and the way that people speak in the southern states. So there really wasn't that much I really wanted to discuss about Ruby. It overall was not my favorite book. I don't think I would read it again, to be completely honest. It was overall just really confusing as far as plot and characters and perspectives. I think if Cynthia would have stuck to maybe 2 perspectives of Ruby and Ephraim, who are essentially the 2 main characters, I think it would have been a lot easier to understand. However, there were some characters that I felt like their backstory was very interesting, especially that of Ephraim and Celia's, who are brother and sister, and their backstory with their family and how they got to where they are today. And I just thought that overall it wasn't fantastic, but I think it definitely could be reworked. But that's all I got for you guys for Ruby by Cynthia Bond. I hope you guys did enjoy this book review. If you guys did, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you're not already and you'd like to be, hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys!